our sisters fire, water, earth, and air.
Hey friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a practicing witch and I talk about it here on the internet. If you are a returning subscriber, it's really good to see you back. Thank you so much for all of the support. It really does mean the world to me. I have not done a vlog here on my channel in I don't know how long. And I'm feeling kind of inspired to do kind of like a winter vlog. As I am filming this right now, we are approaching like the end of November, which I will say, if you don't already know, I do have a Patreon and all of my content goes onto Patreon first. There's a couple different tiers. Make sure that you read the description to know exactly what you're signing up for and what each tier comes with. Part of the perk of subscribing to my Patreon is seeing all of my content before it's actually released here onto YouTube. And again, as I'm filming this now, it's like end of November-ish. And yeah, I kind of feel in the mood to vlog. So I think that's what this video is gonna be. It might be little snippets of videos over the course of a week or so. We'll see kind of what transpires. How are y'all doing? How are you guys feeling? By the time I actually release this, it'll probably be sometime in December. And I know that for myself, I love the holiday season. I really feel like as a witch, I very much like come alive during the harvest season. Like as soon as we have the first harvest, as soon as August hits, I really just start feeling so charged with magic. And I feel like witches might feel differently about different times of year. But for me, as soon as we get into August, yeah, I'm like coming alive at the first harvest. And then we have the second harvest. And for me, I feel like the second harvest tide, the month of September, maybe it's because I was born in September, but I feel like that's really a huge peak for me in my magic. And then getting to October, I love the hollow tide. I love the season of the dead. I love the season of the witch. Of course, I love Halloween. And then of course, after that, we have like November and December and the holidays. And I love all the bright lights and the decorations. And I've really been getting into that this year. For me, the winter can be a little bit bittersweet because there are aspects of it that I love. Like I enjoy the snow and I enjoy the longer nights and I enjoy, again, the decorations and the bright lights and all the food and warm smells that the fall and the winter and the darker half of the year can really bring. But I also struggle with some of the isolation that comes along with that and the stillness of winter. It's a double-edged sword. Like, I know it's necessary and I know I need it, but it's also so hard for me to sit still. For me, I tend to really not only just go within, of course, literally, as in we're indoors more often in the winter, but I use this time to really sit and reflect on my practice and my path and look ahead at the coming year. I use this time to work more creatively indoors, and I've been doing so many winter crafts and I'm excited to kind of share that with you guys in this video. I've made like cute gingerbread houses and some seasonal witch bottles. I have made a wreath for the first time. I've never made a wreath before, but I was scrolling on TikTok and I found this really cute like DIY, so I decided to give it a go. I'm excited to show you guys some of the stuff that I've been making and I've been up to. Okay, so this is gonna be a couple days after like what I had previously filmed, but I'm just popping in per this vlog, checking in. I got up around 6 o'clock in the morning this morning. We had a lot of energy. I took some advice from my mother, which was if you want to have a productive cleaning day, the first thing that you should do is strip your bed and all of your linens and everything and throw it in the washer so you won't be tempted to crawl back into bed, which that doesn't always work for me, and it's kind of worked for me today. I got up, had water, my medications, started my first cup of coffee, threw everything in the washer. We got the dishes done and the bathrooms cleaned, and I put up a load of laundry that I washed several days ago. Pretty productive, honestly, not bad. I'm proud of myself. However, now I feel like I've kind of like, I'm hitting that midday slump where it's like 11 and I'm tired and I'm sitting back on my bare mattress. But I did want to tell you guys that I did work on a fun project of making a Book of Shadow page as kind of like a winter offering. And this is going to be available if you are on my Patreon as a like PDF download, regardless of what tier you are on. You will have access to that. And that's something that I think I'm going to start doing more of. I've put some Book of Shadow pages available for like a printable download on my Patreon in the past, and I really enjoy doing that. So I made this one and I will show you what it is. So I have not actually like glued this into my Book of Shadows yet, but this is the printable page that I made, which talks about Frau Perchta and La Befana, which, if you have watched my channel and if you're familiar with a podcast episode that I did with Astra, for our old podcast, Daughters of Cain, we had a winter solstice episode where we talked about these two folkloric witches. And so I have a little bit of information about them here.
That's all I got for y'all, but
So I know that this table is very messy. Okay, we've been busy. I have been collecting a bunch of cardboard boxes that I'm using to put like gifts in for the holidays coming up. And so I cut them up and I made this little gingerbread village with them, just using some cardboard boxes and white paint. So here are some more of the gingerbread houses that I made, which I think would be great as like cute little ornaments, or to make as like name tags for gifts, or to make a little gingerbread village, put them around some candles, add them to a wreath, do whatever the hell you want. I also dehydrated some lemons and some oranges, which I added some like seasonal spice to kind of give them a little bit of a scent. I do not have a dehydrator, so this took me probably 5 or 6 hours of letting them cook in the oven at about 200 degrees. And my idea with that is that these can be kind of added to like tea, or they can be added to a wreath, or they can be added and made into like a garland. I don't know. I just kind of felt in the mood to make these. I have never made these before, and it was definitely a practice of love. I mean, you got to be home to do this. You know what I mean? If you don't have a dehydrator. So, but yeah, it was fun. And then here I made this cute little bright solstice sign, also just out of cardboard boxes, some paint, and some things I had laying around the house, like some paint markers. And then I cut some evergreen pine and some yew just from my yard. And I made this bird's nest wreath as well, which this is my first wreath that I've ever made. And I think it turned out really cool. So you can kind of see here, really all you need is a box that is a similar size as to how big you're wanting for the base of your wreath. And then you just cut like a donut shape basically out of that. And then you can paint it if you would like, but I don't think that's really necessary. And then after that, you're gonna put down a layer of Mod Podge and then a layer of whatever you're making your wreath out of. So again, I used evergreen pine and yew. Both of those also have very protective and banishing sort of magical properties that I'm wanting to bring in to my home and hearth this winter solstice season. And you just keep layering that with layers of whatever plant matter or whatever you're using and Mod Podge. Let it dry, add another layer. Let it dry, add another layer. You can also add ribbons or yarn or charms or whatever else you would like to it. But this is just how I did it. And I saw this on TikTok and I thought it was a really cool idea because wreaths especially can be so expensive, and if we can make it ourselves, especially as witches, I think that adds a whole other layer of magical potency to our home wards. Okay, sorry for this picture. I just mopped my floors. However, I also wanted to show you that I wrapped the cabinets of our entertainment center. I thought that this was like a really fun holiday festive touch, and I put these little bows on them too. I love it. And here is a picture of the tree that I put up this year. I actually have 2 other trees. I have my mother's old big tree, which is actually so large. Part of the top had to come off because the ceilings aren't high enough, and it's massive. It takes up so much space. I don't have that big of a living room to accommodate it, and I didn't feel like dealing with it this year. And I have another tree that's kind of more like a Charlie Brown style tree. And I wanted something a little bit more than that, but not quite, you know, the extravagance, if you will, of like a giant, massive tree, because that's just so much work to put up and take down, and I just wasn't feeling that this year. But I did want to put up a tree, so I got this pencil tree off of Amazon. It's, I think, about 5.5 feet tall, and I want to say it was only like $40. And I used the ornaments that I already had and just kind of decorated it. I put this tree up early this year, like, I don't know what has gotten into me, but like right after the Samhain Sabbath was over, I started putting up Yule decor. This tree was one of the first things I did, and there's something so magical and ritualistic and just fun about putting up a tree. Also, kind of unrelated, but related to the winter tide, it's crockpot season, and I love a good soup. I love a good stew. I am curious as to what y'all call this dish. I've heard people refer to this as like Hoosier stew. I've heard people refer to this as sausage, beans, and potatoes, said really fast as like one word. I've heard this referred to as potlicka. So I'm curious what you call this. If you make something similar to this, let me know how you make it, what you call it. This is some Albanian beef sausage with green beans and yellow potatoes and onion that I cooked in chicken stock with some Cajun seasoning. It was absolutely fire. And as you can see, Yenny, my pug over here, is like begging me to give her some, which I did not. Okay, she can't have that. It's too spicy. So also, my friend and I, Astra, who you might recognize her from the old podcast here on the channel, Daughters of Cain, we did this black and pink sort of like mercy and severity themed photo shoot together. We really wanted to sort of capture the essence that I know a lot of like queer femmes experience, very Persephonean core sort of coded, very gold and silver queen, very light and dark half of the year sort of vibes. If you know the vibes, you know the vibes. And that's really all I'm going to say about that. I also made these cute little witches bottles that have like a Yuletide theme to them as well. I made a few of these for some of my friends, and I used some of the dehydrated oranges that I made along with some red thread that's very symbolic to us American trad witches. I also used some of the pine and some of the yew that I harvested for the wreaths and added some other magical things to it as well. This was super fun to make. Like, you know, whether it be creative writing, like working on manuscripts or working in my book of shadows, or whether it be more physical crafting like the wreath or the witch bottles, I really feel like this is such a good time of year to really get our hands dirty in some craft. Recently, we recorded the winter solstice episode for the Circle City Witches. That is a podcast that I am a part of, along with the wonderful and talented Abby the Witch and Conjure Cutie that are both here on YouTube. And if you look around the internet, I'm sure you can find their social medias. They are so awesome. They're friends of mine also in real life too. And the Circle City Witches is basically a podcast about us as Circle City Witches, as traditional witches. If you don't know, the Circle City is kind of a nickname for the city of Indianapolis. And it's referred to as the Circle City because literally the interstate circles around it. We also have the Indy 500, which is a big giant circle. We also have the Monument Circle. Our downtown district is kind of built on ley lines of a sort, and it's centered on this grid around the Monument Circle. So the Circle City just feels like such a witchy city name. And I don't think that Indianapolis or Indiana or really the Midwest really gets enough witchy love. I think people often think of, these big hubs, right? Like Salem or like New Orleans, but there truly is magic everywhere. And the magic that is here in our city, or even just in the Midwest, I think is not quite as in your face. And if you're not paying attention, all you're gonna see is like corn and farmland. But there's actually quite a bit here in the heartland of the Midwest. So that podcast is basically talking about our experiences as American traditional folkloric witches residing in the Midwest and talking about traditional witchcraft as it pertains to our specific bioregion. Like I said, we just recorded the winter solstice episode, which was so fun. We all kind of talked about a different topic, regarding the winter solstice and regarding death. Like one of us focused on death work, one of us focused on mythology and folklore, and one of us focused on ceremonies and ritual. We'll try to remember to link that video down below so you guys can go and check that out. Usually we split the episodes up and half of the episode will be on Abby the Witch's channel and half of the episode will be on my channel. Make sure that you are subscribed to both of us and that you have hit the bell so you can stay notified when those episodes are uploaded. So for those of you who don't know, where I live in the city is kind of close to the firehouse. So you're probably going to hear sirens in the background from time to time. I apologize. I could just probably shut the hell up and wait for the sirens to pass, but that's just not my style. So getting back on the topic though of the winter tide and what this means for me as a American traditional folkloric witch. I, again, feel the need to embrace a sense of stillness, but that typically comes in after December. And going back to talking about energy peaks and levels as witches connected with the land, I really start peaking around, I would say, the harvest season. And then I kind of stay up and just plateau during December, November. And then once January hits is when I really start to kind of come down off that magical high of the harvest and the holidays. And I go pretty far down. Like my seasonal depression tends to affect me more in late winter through spring. I also have some anniversaries that are kind of painful around that time of year, so it's a mix of that as well. And then once we get to May Day, I start to feel more even keel. I start to feel kind of more in the middle, no longer under, but not necessarily over either, if that makes sense. And then we cycle through the wheel until we get to the harvest season, and then I feel back on the up and ups again. I'm curious if any of you experience something like that as well. Not just necessarily with mental health, but I'm talking about how you feel magically. When do you feel the most charged? What time of year is it? Is there a specific season that you feel most alive in the heart of magic? I know that for a lot of us, it kind of ebbs and flows as well. I mean, there's that old phrase that nothing in nature is in bloom all of the time. So being turned on at maximum level, even though I feel like our capitalistic society sort of pressures us and encourages us to live that way, is obviously not healthy because that's how burnout happens. So I think honoring those low periods is a way for us to really stay in balance within ourselves. But yeah, I'm probably going to be like linking some videos of some of the crafts that I've been working on. Let me know what you guys think of these. I am in no way like a skilled artisan or anything. This is just me and stuff that I've had on hand and sort of putting some stuff together. I hope that some of these ideas might inspire you. And if you make any of these crafts, let me know. Comment down below. Post it, tag me in it. I would love to see it. I hope that you all have enjoyed this, and until next time, blessed be, and I will see you in hell.
The howling whispers tear at the scars, leaving a broken and vandalized jar. The soul ignited and burns as a flame, turns all to ash with its village to blame.